is a presentation of Fox Sports.
We are Baltimore. We are Ohio.
Rain has been on again, off again the entire last 48 hours here in Cincinnati, but looking pretty good tonight. Game 2 of this 4-game series, the Reds and the Marlins. Reds trying to even the 4-game setup at a game apiece. Hi again, everybody. Alongside Chris Welsh and Jim Day, I'm Tom Brenneman. Welcome, as always, to Reds Baseball on Fox Sports Ohio. You asked a question a couple of days ago. Is Tucker Barnhart an everyday catcher? For those that may have doubted that, he's certainly working hard to change your mind.
Well, he should have changed everybody's mind by now, at least in my opinion. No, just because a guy is small of stature, and he's a little guy compared to a lot of big league catchers nowadays, he doesn't go 6'4", he doesn't weigh 230 pounds, but he can play every day. He's a switch hitter. He can put the ball in play, which he has done very well lately, and he can throw a lot of runners out. So I'm not sure what other requisites you need to be an everyday player in the major leagues behind the plate. Pitchers love throwing to him, but you start adding some of this offense in there, I think you've got something special right here in Cincinnati and Tucker Barnhart.
Well, speaking of his defense, Jim Day will have more on that story in just a little while. Barnhart behind the plate, and he'll be hanging the signs for the man who's become the Reds ace in a very short amount of time since coming from the Marlins, and that's Anthony DeSclafani.
Well, he missed a lot of the season with that abdominal injury that he sustained in spring training, but when he did finally come off the disabled list 10 weeks later, man, oh man, did he ever go good. Won 5 of his first 5 decisions. He was pouring strikes into the strike zone, mainly down in the zone, getting some ground balls. DeSclafani a little bit of a hiccup his last time out when he picked up a loss, but I think overall this guy, a strong arm, heavy sinking fastball, and a slider. That's the 1-2 punch that he brings, and he's a very, very tough pitcher to face.
He's trying to slow down his Marlin lineup, and the rejuvenated 33-year-old Martin Prado.
They get a lot of guys on base, they get a lot of doubles, and Prado is right in the middle of everything. I mean, when you're hitting 324, it doesn't matter how old you are, people are going to take notice of you. 820 OPS, that's a pretty good number right there. Since June the 29th, he's hitting over 350. So he's a guy that is always going to be tough at the plate. He fouls off a lot of pitches. He makes you work, and he is right in the middle of things with the Marlins.
When we come back, we'll check in with Jim Day. How do you spell relief? Jim standing by with that and much more on Fox Sports Ohio.
USA Regional Tourism Network. Stay close to CincinnatiUSA.com. And by Skyline Chili. Feeling good? It's Skyline time.
Hey there, good evening to you. We are going to see a pretty good game tonight against the Marlins once again. Temperatures will be falling through the 70s. It'll be pretty rain-cooled. Not going to rule out a slight chance for a couple of downpours, but we should get the game in with little, if any, rain. Let's go, Reds!
All right, we like to hear that. Dry right now. You know, a lot of people ask me, what's been the biggest turnaround for the Reds since the All-Star break? They're playing above 500 baseball all of a sudden, and the first thing you point to is certainly a bullpen that is performing much, much better. And you look at the numbers of our IGS bringing the energy, and you'll see the Reds with the 2.77 bullpen ERA. That is tops in the National League since the All-Star break. Yes, there have been some hiccups along the way. There was indeed a hiccup last night, but overall, the numbers speak for themselves, and that is certainly the main reason, one of them, where the Reds have turned the corner on this season and have played better baseball since the break. There is a mix-up in the bullpen. Well, that story coming up later. Anthony DeSclafani goes to the hill against his former team, Disco versus the Fish. Tom and Chris are next.
Crowd rolling in, waiting on the Reds to take the field for the second game of this four-game series. We mentioned it during the last road trip. It is quite odd to play back-to-back four-game series, but that's what the Reds are doing on this homestand, and here they come for game number 2. Anthony DeSclafani came over in the Matt Latos trade from the Marlins, and he had a chance last June the 20th to face his former team. He got the loss, going 5 innings, allowing 4 hits and 3 earned runs. Evansville, Indiana native Don Mattingly, first-year manager of these Marlins, 6-year overall. Good winning numbers for Mattingly, and his starting lineup reads as follows. Gordon at second base, Prado at third, Yelich having a big year out in left field. Ozuna, big home run in the game here last night, also knocked in a run with a double. The Cleveland native Dietrich is at first, and Ichiro in right. Real Muto behind the plate, Echevarria the shortstop, and just called up from the minor leagues, is Jose Urena. And actually they have the lilt there. Urena is the official pronunciation of his name. And here is DeSclafani.
And it's not DeSclafani.
No, it's not.
Okay.
I hope not.
Well, they would know that in Miami because, after all, he was in Miami Marlin for a while. He came actually originally from the Toronto Blue Jays, who drafted him from the University of Florida. DeSclafani, who still makes his winter home down in Florida, gets to face his Marlins for the second time since being traded away. And boy, the Reds are happy they have him. He has been really, really good since coming back up off the disabled list. He won his first 6 decisions before getting sidetracked his last time out. But overall, DeSclafani is just a guy out there that, you know, has composure on the mound. You look at him and you can't tell whether he's 10 runs up or 10 runs down. And he's got plenty of stuff on his arm. Fastball in the low 90s with lots of movement on it, a good changeup, and a biting slider that, when it's right, goes straight down.
And you mentioned he suffered his first loss his last time out in St. Louis, went 5 innings, allowed 6 hits and 3 runs. We'll see here tonight. And a good way to get it started. Strike 1 to the speedy D. Gordon, and we're underway. Gordon only playing in his 38th game after serving a suspension. Carries a .290 average. He has 13 stolen bases. And his speed, a big part of a big play in that game last night with the bases loaded.
Infield hit, as it turned out to be, at least ruled that way by the official scorer. It was a ground ball. It looked like a very routine ground ball hit to first base. Votto backed up a couple of places to get it. And by the time Blake Wood got to the base, and I said last night Blake Wood was late to the first base. He was not late. He was on schedule, just like that fastball on the inside corner, right on schedule for DeSclafani against D. Gordon. But as it turned out, kind of a lofty throw from Votto to Blake Wood, and he was safe at first, was D. Gordon. That was a game changer. The Marlins added some runs in that inning and separated themselves from the Reds. That went down actually as a base hit, if you can believe it. Marlins take advantage of some bad defense by the Reds last night.
They actually scored 2 runs on that play. 2 big runs. So here's Martin Prado. Well, you could have had this guy really for a song in the grand scheme of things when you look back on what has been an excellent career for Prado. They picked him up prior to last year. Wherever this guy goes, he just hits. Versatile. Has had an excellent major league career. .324 batter. 26 doubles, 7 home runs, 55 runs batted in. He came up originally with Atlanta, then went to Arizona, had a couple of outstanding years with the Diamondbacks. They traded him in 2014 to finish up the year with the Yankees, and then the Marlins said, come on board. And last year hit .290 and wound up driving in 63 runs. Still 2-2. Two Marlins in the lineup, the top 2 hitters away from the home turf in the entire National League. And that average will go up. This one served fair down the right field line. Holt getting the start out there, over to cut it off. And that'll be the 27th 2-base hit of the season for Prado.
Boy, it really raises the ire of a pitcher when you make a good pitch you think is going to retire the hitter, and it would retire most right-handers. It's right on the outside corner, and you see that Prado just kind of flips his bat at it. Very awkward looking swing, but a flat path through the ball. At the very worst, Prado is going to foul that ball off. At the very best, he keeps it fair inside the line and picks up a double.
Prado in scoring position for the young slugger Christian Yelich. Yelich will play this entire season at just 24 years young. Grew up in Thousand Oaks, California. 23rd pick overall in the first round in the June 2010 draft. Started to play regularly for the first time 5 years later. He had a couple of months in the big leagues in 13, but a regular player in 14 Was off to a monster year last year before he got hurt. A pair of stints on the disabled list. Broken bat flare, short left. Great jump by Prado. And he will easily score on the broken bat single by Yelich. 1-0 Miami here in the opening inning.
It's almost intuitive hitting on the part of Yelich and Prado so far here in the first inning. Both guys have gone the other way with the ball. Although in that case, I'm not so sure that Yelich wanted to go to left field. It just happened to work out that way. But boy, the advantage of putting the bat on the ball. You just never know what's going to happen.
Prado knew right away that ball would not be caught. That is just excellent instincts running the bases by Prado.
You're right. And with 2 outs, obviously you're off at the bat. You always go with 2 outs. But with 1 out, you have to check where the outfielder is on every pitch to make sure he didn't sneak in on you. So you can gauge that immediately. And that's one of the reasons why Prado is one of the more respected players around Major League Baseball.
The Miami Marlins come in with a record of 62 up, 56 down. They are tied for what would be the second wild card slot in the National League, along with the St. Louis Cardinals with an identical record. It's in the air left field, playable for Tony Renda. And Yelich will stay put, 2 away in the inning. We look at the Reds on defense, presented by Ford. Told you Renda the nod and left. Schebler moves over to center after Hamilton was injured last night. And hold the nod in right. Once again, Phillips is out of there in favor of De Jesus. So Renda makes a play for the second out of the inning. Renda charging hard, and that's another broken bat flare base hit. This one by Derek Dietrich. Boy, DeSclafani's got to be wondering, what do I have to do to pick up an out? Just good hitting.
The easy answer to that is just continue to make good pitches. I mean, you can't defend against jam shots. You can't defend against those balls that come off the end of the bat. That was in on the handle right there. That part of the plate is an important thing for Anthony DeSclafani. He likes to come right in there on those left-handed hitters, and eventually he'll buy the outside corner because he can get it in there.
Well, here comes the amazing Ichiro. 42-year-old, came over from Japan when he joined Seattle in 2001. That year, his first year in Major League Baseball in the States. Was a Rookie of the Year and the most valuable player in the American League.
That is his real name, right? The amazing Ichiro?
It is.
I thought so.
Eclipsed 3,000 hits already this year. And if you include the hits from his time in Japan, he owns 4,281 of them. 3,003 in the United States, 1,278 in Japan. It should be noted, not a single one of his 4,281 hits have ever occurred at Great American Ballpark. Not one. See the numbers here, 0 for 7 in his career, including last night. How about that note? More base hits for Ichiro than the entire Red starting lineup combined. Ooh, it didn't miss by much. 2 on, 2 out, 2 balls, 2 strikes. Pitch number 22.
You know, the numbers aside for Ichiro, he has the type of batting style that is just so hard to replicate. I mean, it really goes against so much of what batting coaches try to teach, really from high school on up. You know, stay in the batter's box, have a good foundation, swing with your feet. Well, Ichiro seems to swing as he's running out of the box. But don't be fooled. He gets his pitch, he can knock it a long, long way.
Three and 2.
There's the movement right there. And really less movement on that than when he actually swings. He's moving more as he swings.
So the runners will be off with 2 away, 3 balls, 2 strikes on Ichiro, and DeSclafani to the plate, and again fouled off and out of play. I mean, he'll still steal a base on you every now and again now. He has 9 and 11 attempts, but he's one of only 7 players in the history of the game with over 3,000 hits and over 500 stolen bases. He has gone on strikes, and that'll end the inning. A run, 3 hits, 2 left. Reds are coming up, down early, 1-0. Straightaway center field here at Great American Ballpark. Let's take a look at the Reds starting lineup tonight under manager Brian Price. Rendon to lead off in left field. Cozart at short. Joey Votto at first. Suarez moves to the cleanup spot. Schebler in center. De Jesus at second for the injured Phillips. Barnhart, Holt, DeSclafani round out the latter third. And on the mound, Jose Urena.
24 years old, Urena did get the pitch in the big leagues last year. In fact, he was up for 20 games last year. 9 of those were starts. He's had 3 starts so far this year, so a small sample size. Just don't worry about the earned run average. But what you may want to think about if you're thinking about getting in the batting box, he averages 96.7 miles per hour on that 4-seam fastball. Throws it a lot, also throws a changeup and a slider.
You know, we never see this young man, but when you look at his minor league numbers, they are very, very impressive, and he has excellent control. But between last year, as Chris mentioned, he had a chance to come up with a major league club, and in his stint so far this year, a very high walk number.
Well, typical of a hard-throwing youngster. So the problem, though, is that if you go up there and you're too conservative, you start taking pitches, you'll find yourself down at 2 strikes. and you don't really feel comfortable having 2 strikes on you when the other pitcher throws, you know, an average of over 96 with the fastball. So sometimes a kid like this can be just wild enough to be effective.
Renda 2 of 14 since joining the major league club with a couple of runs batted in. Sharply hit, but right at the shortstop Echevarria. That's out number 1. Marlins on defense. So young, this team, outside of the right fielder Ichiro and the third baseman Prado. Everybody else, Chris, pretty young club.
They are a very young ball club, and they're athletic club too. I mean, look all around and you see guys that can cover a lot of ground in the outfield. Even Suzuki can get around a little bit now.
The defense presented by your Ford dealers.
Now they've got a chance, you know, to make it very interesting between now and the end of the season as far as the wild card goes. They have been given some tough blows luck-wise with injuries. Talked about Giancarlo Stanton being done for the year, probably. He's their big slugger. I'm not sure where they're going to turn to get offense. They have a number of players that get on base. They have a lot of hits. Question is, can you turn those into runs?
Marlins a year ago were 20 games under the 500 mark, and there you see the record this year. The Dodgers are the overall #1 wild card leader, but then you saw, as we brought up earlier, and we'll go back to this graphic because, Chris, there's a pile of teams as Cozart taps out for the second out of the inning. With the advent of a second wild card a handful of years ago, all of a sudden you'll see a lot of this. Now, Colorado on the fringe there. But New York, even with all their ups and downs, 3 back of both the Marlins and the Cardinals, the Pirates sandwiched in between.
It's interesting, the Pirates are right there, but they didn't act at the trading deadline like they were adding to their team.
Sure.
In fact, they were subtracting. It's almost like, well, if this is the year we'll go, we'll take it, but we're not planning on it.
Well, it's funny, you know, I recall in spring training, and it just goes to show you that, you know, all of us, and I include myself, you know, the prognosticators out there, they'll say, well, you know, in that National League Central, man, you've got 3 powerhouse teams. You better win 95 plus if you want to get in the playoffs. Not that way so far.
No, not so far.
Joey Votto 1-2.
Yeah, Votto taking a little bit extra time after that 0-1 changeup that he swung through and didn't feel good about it at all. Took a long time to get back into the batter's box.
Well, what a tear he has been on. You know, in the grand scheme of things, where does it stack up with what he did the second half of last year? You know, look, you can crunch all the numbers you want. The bottom line is this guy has been the best hitter in the National League since the end of May, and the beat goes on. That one looped into right field, a 2-out single for Joey Votto.
Jose Urena went right back to that changeup again, the one that he got the bad swing on Votto. This time Votto hangs with it a little bit better, even though that pitch is actually off the plate. It just kind of goes more side to side than down, and Votto picks up a 2-out base hit.
I don't know about you, Chris. I mean, I've never seen a hitter on the kind of run that Votto is on right now, just as far as, you know, a batting average is concerned, and on base percentage. Obviously, there have been guys that have had a lot more thunder that have gotten on a considerable roll. The years Bonds put together out in San Francisco can never be forgotten. But as hot as Votto has been, it's almost impossible to believe that Altuve is hit for an average better than Joey has when you sit here and watch him.
You're right. You're right.
I mean, it is impossible to believe. But while Votto has hit .377, Altuve during the same stretch with the Houston Astros is hitting .392. 1-2 on Suarez.
You know what Votto's doing reminds me a little bit of what Tony Gwynn did a few years in a row. Not the entire year, but I mean, when Gwynn had that run where he nearly hit 400, I mean, he was going through runs like this where every time you turn around, Tony Gwynn is on the base, either walking him or whether he's getting a base hit.
And a 2-out single hooked to the left side will send Votto on to second base by Suarez. So now back-to-back 2-out singles will give Schebler a chance. Reds down 1-0 batting in the opening inning.
Hung that pitch right up there for him.
Schebler ending that 0 for 28 stretch last night. He's 6 for 41 since they brought him back up to the major leagues after the trade of Jay Bruce to the New York Mets. And this is what ended the streak. Straight away center field. Fastball on the outside corner. Urania to get ahead. No balls and 2 strikes.
Pretty good pitch right there. I mean, until you have 2 strikes on you, if you're Scott Schebler, you're looking for something to drive here. And that pitch right on the black on the knees.
Ball and 2 strikes. Votto a 2-out single to right, goes to second on a 2-out single to left by Suarez after the Marlins posted a run on a base hit, broken bat base hit by Yelich to play Prado in the top of the inning. Two and 2. Shot into left center field, a base hit. They are going to hold Votto at third as Yelich gets to that one quickly out in left center field. 3 straight hits, yet to produce a run, however. And now they're leaning hard on Ivan De Jesus Jr. Nice piece of hitting here.
It really is, and then he just went with it because look where that grouping of pitches is from Urena. He just kept going down and away, and Schebler stays right on it. You know, if you're going to string 3 base hits together, you want the bloop hit to be the last one. This ball hit so sharply out the left field that it gets to Yelich when Joey Votto is still 2 or 3 steps from third base. So there's no way Hatcher can send it.
Ivan De Jesus Jr. has hit safely in each of his last 6 starts, making his 27th overall start of the year tonight. And he takes ball 1. They are loaded for the Redlegs with 2 away. Two and 0. Well, not only the batting average continues to swell month by month for the Reds, right along with it the number of runs per game, which is the most important stat of all. The Reds in August averaging over 5 runs per game for the first time in any month all year long. 3-0. Two-out singles by Votto, Suarez, and Schebler have loaded him up. And the youngster Urania, a 3-0 pitch in there, a strike. Well, DeJesus was called out on a pitch last night that he did not agree with by Bill Welke, who tonight is a third base umpire, worked behind the plate last night.
Well, you can't let yourself fall into that trap tonight. I mean, this is a pitch where, you know, you can take on what our team Prado does, which is foul off a lot of pitches that you think are marginal. Take it out of the umpire's hands. Put it in your own hands.
DJ Rayburn calls the balls and strikes tonight. Larry Vanover at first. Pat Hoberg at second. Welke is at third. Can DeJesus deliver? And he has drawn a bases loaded walk, and we're tied at 1. Juan Nieves, the pitching coach, will come out for a quick word. I mean, he retired the first 2 batters, nothing to it.
At this point, you're just trying to settle the young man down. It looked like he was going to give a breeze through the first inning, which is what every coach wants of his young pitcher out there. But then you give up 3 hits in a row, you go full count, you walk a batter after coming back from 3-0. So right on the edge. However, the way that Tucker Barnhart's swinging the bat, you may want to be aggressive right here. I mean, because I'm sure that Nieves told Urena, hey, you come right after this guy now. Keep it down, use your best up, and throw strikes.
Told you before the start of the game, nobody hotter in this Reds lineup, except for Joey Votto, than Tucker Barnhart right now, an 11-game hitting streak. Starts him with a breaking ball, thinking that Barnhart might be looking first pitch fastball. It's high. Tucker, during the streak, has hit .359. High fly ball, pretty well hit. Ichiro at the wall, touch them all. Tucker Barnhart, a grand slam. Tell you what, Barnhart has done some major damage this year with the bases loaded. That's his 5th hit, and he's knocked in 13 runs. First career salami. Atta boy, Tucker. Boy, is he playing well.
You know, what even is more impressive about it all is that he's been doing all of this offense in the number 8 spot in the order. And he just gets a pitch right there. All you got to do is put a good hit on it, a good swing on it. He's in the 7th spot tonight. But most of the damage he's done is out of the 8th spot, which is the most difficult spot in the order to hit. Because you're always pitching around that guy because the pitcher's coming up next. Sometimes you're intentionally walked, but rarely do they come right after you. But when they do, Tucker's ready.
All of this after the first 2 batters were retired in the inning. Votto started it. He had a single. Suarez the same. Schebler the same. Bases loaded, walk to tie it, and now a grand slam. Number 1 for Tucker Barnhart, and a 4-run lead.
Well, they're dancing in the streets in Brownsburg, Indiana right now.
If Tucker gets a hit or if Lance Lynn gets a win, they're in business. Storin from that same town, too,
yes,
or is he a
is.
different town? He is.
Same town, same high school.
This should end the inning. 8 back, 5 score. Tucker Barnhart. Now, this is a way to extend a hitting streak. First at bat and touch them all.
certainly like to see the Marlins in the other dugout. At Great American Ballpark, 25-18 when you include Synergy Field. 20 games over 500, and the all-time record 104-81. It's the second best record all-time versus any other National League team, and barely behind the Philadelphia Phillies. So the Reds have been reeling in those fish.
Ooh, very, very nice, Jimbo. Hey, by the way, you don't need to hear it from me, but I happened to tune in last night, and Jimbo, you were on top of your game.
Well, you are hard shoes to fill, Tom.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure of that.
No, I'm not kidding. You are.
Yeah.
Oh, you know it. Come on.
Really enjoyed listening to you and Mr. Welsh. And nice to have Jeff Picoro back down in the Reds dugout last night. Thought the Reds were going to come back and win that thing.
They had enough time.
JT Realmuto having a real nice year with a bat.
Yeah, he's another young catcher. I mean, there you see both of them. Barnhart's already hit a grand slam. They're both 25 years old, both signed out of high school. And Realmuto was actually an infielder when they signed him. He was a shortstop, and they went to him and said, "Hey, we won't put you behind the plate." And here he is in the major leagues and having a really good run of it. He made the major leagues when he was 23. A cup of coffee back in 2014.
Strike three called a dandy on the inside corner, and Realmuto knew it. One away. 3 strikeouts in a game for Anthony.
Well, if DeSclafani gets this slider going the way it is right now, look at it just drop straight down. A lot of sliders are going to go across the plate side to side, and his just has that downward motion, and he can lock you up.
Madania Chavarria, the shortstop, 251 overall, 3 home runs, 34 batted in. You talked about batting in the 8th spot. This kid's done a nice job batting down there. Nothing wrong with those numbers. I mean, not a great on-base percentage. There's no question at 294. Like to see it get a little bit higher than that. But overall, everyday regular shortstop in the 8 hole, they'll live with it.
Well, you know what happens when you bat in the 8th hole is that because you're getting pitched around a little bit, you get anxious, especially if you're a young player. So you start chasing pitches. You're hunting base hits with pitches that really aren't suited for you to get base hits on. Like that. He didn't chase it, but that's the idea for DeSclafani.
Two hopper will back up Yvonne, 2 away.
You're given a big lead like DeSclafani has here in the 1st inning, and you just don't want to go into cruise control. But at the same time, you want to make sure that you don't beat yourself, that you want to stay down in the zone. You want to make sure you throw strikes because you want to go deep in the ball game. The last thing you really want to do is you want to turn it over to a bullpen after 6 innings because you hit a pitch count. You always feel as a starting pitcher that the game is in better hands, in your hands, rather than somebody else's.
You know, it's interesting. You talk to the people who watch the Marlins play every day, and you ask them, you say, okay, you got the 2nd best team batting average in the league. You have the 5th best on base percentage in the National League, and we'll talk more about it when the Marlins bat in the 3rd. So why are they 11th in the league in runs scored?
Side during tonight's game. Tyler Boland of Cincinnati will win the brand new Tundra here at GABP. You can register for your chance to win at an upcoming game by seeing your Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky Toyota dealers. This date in Reds history, 1962, the Reds stage Trumpet Night, in which anyone bringing in a trumpet was granted free admission. Over 650 fans took advantage of the promotion. Could you imagine, as the king of rock and roll looking on?
How about that?
The king's here, but could you imagine 650 trumpets blaring right now?
Hey, I'm all for it. That's a big league promotion. Were you a trumpet player, Jim?
In elementary school, believe it or not, I chose trumpet, and it lasted about 2 months.
Well, Tom, you've never been one afraid to blow your own horn.
There's no doubt. Well, you know the reason that fella is dressed up as Elvis, right? I mean, you know what today is. Today is the day that Elvis Presley died in Memphis, Tennessee in 1977.
Allegedly?
Allegedly. The king of rock and roll. He looks to be tearing up a little bit right now thinking about that. Ground ball to diving play off the bat of DeSclafani. Pretty sloppy throw there. He didn't need to stay on his knees, but Prado able to have his first baseman bail him out. One away.
Boy, what a grab right here. DeSclafani hits it very sharply. But at this point, you know, comes up, makes a nice play, and has time to make that play at first base.
Brenda bats for the second time. He grounded out to the shortstop his first time up. You ever been down to Graceland?
I never have, no. How about you?
I have.
How was it?
It's awesome. I mean, it's just awesome. Pop up in a short right field. That'll be the second out of the inning. MLB.TV Premium is the #1 live streaming sports service. Delivers everything you've come to expect and so much more. It includes a free subscription to At-Bat Premium. Visit MLB.TV for details. Jim Day, have you ever been to Graceland down in Memphis, Tennessee?
I have not.
I am stunned.
I know. And my I'll tell you what, my sister and my mom are big time Elvis fans. So when I was a kid, I mean, Elvis was on all the time. So I am a fan of the music.
Rose to national attention at Elvis in 1956. My oh my, did he transform popular music unlike any other. And look where Zach Cozart was born. Coincidence? I think not. And a knock on top of it. I mean, come on. He had to get a hit right there. We're talking about Elvis, Graceland, Memphis. It had to be a knock.
Well, right on time, Zach Cozart. Kind of building the way the last inning built when the Reds ended up scoring 5 in the inning. Urena had the first 2 retired and then gave up hit after hit after hit, culminating with the grand slam.
Well, we can pretty much pack everything up and go home after that. You talk about Elvis. Cozart's from Memphis. He gets a hit. Come on. Let's have cheers to that. Well, I asked you if you've ever been to Graceland. Have you ever dressed up as Elvis?
I have not done that. No.
You ever gone to a ball game dressed up as Elvis?
No. That's still on my bucket list. dress up as Lisa Marie and come with you, right?
Well, Jim will for sure. Hey, I give it up to him. Remembering the king. Nice to have you here tonight. Two and two to Votto. He started what turned out to be a 5-run first inning. And you thought at the time, okay, Votto's just doing what he does. Base hit with 2 outs in the inning. Nobody on. Wound up scoring on a bases loaded walk 3 batters later. And then the grand slam by Tucker Barnhart to make it where we stand at 5-1. Foul tipped into the mid of Real Muto, and that will end the inning. First strikeout of the night for Urania. 5-1. We're off to the third.
How you can get tickets in the Terrace line for any game against the Dodgers Friday through Monday for just $25. Go to reds.com/FSOhio and use the promo code FSOhio to get your tickets now available only during tonight's game and the post game. So Dodgers on the weekend, a little wraparound action too. They stay through Monday.
That's exactly right. Night game Friday night, night game Saturday night, 1:10 start Sunday. 12:35 business person special on Monday. And Tuesday and Wednesday, front runners in the American League West. The Texas Rangers in for a 2-game swing. Rangers have won 7 of their last 10, but they've lost 2 games in the standings. Seattle winning 9 of 10, 5.5 back. Here's D. Gordon. Reds lead 5-1. We begin the third. Gordon struck out looking to lead off the game. be a tough play here, and Cozart, the veteran, wisely will just stick it in his pocket. Gordon runs far too well for that. So now the two-time Major League Baseball stolen base leader. Did it in 14, did it again last year. Is aboard to begin this Marlins third inning. Gordon, since serving the suspension, which was handed down at the end of April, 13 stolen bases in 17 attempts. You know, we started to ask the question when the Marlins were at bat in the second inning. They have the 5th best on-base percentage in the National League. They have the 6th best slugging percentage in the National League. They have the 2nd highest batting average in the National League. So why would they slip all the way down to 11th in runs scored? For those who see them every day, they'll tell you two things. Number one, they rarely ever hit the home run. They rank 13th in the National League in home runs, and of course now their big slugger, Giancarlo Stanton, it looks like we'll miss the remainder of the regular season. There goes Gordon. Barnhart's throw is not in time. Number 14 for D. Gordon. And the other part of it is the absence of that. They'll tell you that last year when they were piling up stolen bases, get an infield hit, steal second, steal third, ground ball maybe gets you to third, fly ball scores you a run. So while you may not have scored directly, you know, from a base hit, the stolen base would help lead to many of the Marlins' runs last year.
And it keeps you out of the stolen base when you are successful. Of course, that all depends on what your success rate is. If you're running just to run and you end up being caught, you know, 40% of the time, it doesn't make any sense. Billy Hamilton, by contrast, is up around 88 to 90% success rate on his attempts.
What a throw by Suarez, man. He has a cannon over there at third base. Gordon will advance on to third, and that's out number 1 in the inning. You got to get an out, right? I mean, he made the right play.
Of course you did. I don't think D. Gordon was far enough off the base right there to go to second base and try to pick him off anyway. What if you throw to second and you don't get the runner at first? That's just a strong arm right there.
So the Reds with a 4-run lead. Marlins scored in the first inning. They have Gordon at third. And that's a balk. That'll bring in the runner from third base. Immediately taking off the mask was DJ Rayburn. So here you're getting a look in this inning alone at what the Marlins are talking about when you're missing the kind of speed like D. Gordon.
Yeah, what happened there, it happens a lot. You know, the pitcher thinks that he and the catcher are on the same page. And all of a sudden, he begins to start his motion, and then the catcher changes signs again. And that's when you flinch a little bit, and that was a good job by Rayburn to pick that flinch up. Definitely a ball.
Here, Chris, let's go back and look at that here in a second, as that's the second out of the inning.
The camera angle we had from center field was the perfect one right there. You see him, he's getting the sign, all right, strike two, and by that time it was, he wanted a curveball right there, and it's usually when you mess up on the sign. You think you know what's coming, you start your delivery or you start coming up, and the catcher changes it, and that's where you end up getting the ball. You'd think that there would be more than 9 all year long. I think, and the more left-handers you have, the more chances you're going to have more balks, because that's the traditional way of balking. The left-hander doesn't throw to first, doesn't step to first, but he throws to first.
Ball hit very hard into left center field, and that will bounce up against the wall. Schebler going to fire it back in. A 2-out double by Marcell Ozuna.
This guy has had some really good swings in just 2 games in this series. Hit a home run last night, joined the 20 home run club with that swing, and hit a ball hard the first time up, but it stayed in the ballpark. They got him on a slider the first time. That looks like a curveball there, and DeSclafani just hung it up a little too much. You know, getting back to the Marlins as to why they're not scoring more runs, given all their secondary numbers seem to be good. My first response would be, without looking up, well, what do they do on 3rd and 1? I mean, are they able to convert when they have runners on base?
Great point.
And the fact is, they do. They are 3rd best in the league in batting average with runners in scoring position this year. Only the Rockies and Cardinals are better. And you know who's 4th? The Reds.
Of course, the Marlins on base percentage is significantly better than the Reds. The Reds rank among the bottom 4 teams in the league in on base percentage. We mentioned the Marlins are 5th best.
The Marlins have an on-base percentage of .352. The Reds .346. Doesn't sound like much, but given over the whole year, that's a lot.
Derek Dietrich, a broken bat single into left field his first time up.
Well, Elvis must have showed up in the parking lot because people are heading out of their seats. Either that or it's raining.
And we'll have to wait for a final decision. We'll go to replay in between the commercial break. Is Elvis here? I thought I saw him earlier.
The starting lineup left last night's game banging hard into the wall, and he was just bruised all over the body after this collision right here. Talked to Billy today, and he says, I haven't beat the wall yet. The wall 6, me 0. The wall is undefeated. Now, I'd like to continue a conversation that Chris and I started last night. And Chris Welsh, you brought it up. Will it be time to dial Billy back so that he doesn't get hurt and not be so aggressive? And we put that very question to Brian Price today, and he said it would remove some of his aggressiveness. It would remove a lot of his value if you do that. And they certainly don't want to do that at this point. But the question does deserve merit over the long haul. If he continues to get hurt like that, there might come a day where they have to say, Billy, dial it back.
You know, I think that you don't necessarily have to tell him to dial it back. Just temper it a little bit. It's like a pitcher who is out there all the time just throwing as hard as he absolutely can. And by doing so, you risk injury. More so than if you temper it a little bit and stay within yourself. Billy can still run in the gap and make great plays. Where he's going to injure himself, let's face it, running into walls and injuring his hands during sliding into bases, either at second base, third, or probably at home. So, you know, maybe using more judgment and tempering it a little bit is a better way of putting it to Billy rather than dialing it back, because you don't want to tell the guy, don't try hard.
Pulled foul by Schebler after the strikeout of Suarez to begin the inning by Urania. Reds lead 5-2, scored all 5 runs in the first inning.
Schebler's base hit in that inning was as key as anybody's. He went right out there to get it, hit it hard the other way in between the hole, or in the hole between third and short.
And there's a bullet right back where it came from, and Schebler a perfect 2 for 2 so far tonight. A single to left and now a single to center field.
Well, they want it down and away, and it looks like it's going right where Realmuto, the catcher, has got his glove. And Schebler's just right on it. Well, that ball is hit like a bullet.
Oh boy, DeJesus getting drilled on the first pitch in this his second plate appearance. He was the one you may remember that drew the bases loaded walk to bring in the first Reds run. And that is high gas on the left tricep.
Well, it got him probably on that tricep pad that he wears underneath his uniform, but over his sleeve. It's a good thing he had it on.
All right, 2 on now, 1 out, and here's Barnard who clubbed the grand slam, the first of his career, his first time up. That one fouled off behind the plate, 0-1 to Tucker. It's his 7th home run, 34 runs batted in for Tucker Barnard. Fastball inner half, and he nailed it. This one off the end of the bat. And backing up on it, Ozuna, tagging and advancing on the third, Schebler. They're on the corners with 2 outs, and Tyler Holt coming up. Holt ended the first inning with a pop-up to Yelich in left field. It's textbook there by Real Muto, falling down on his knees and keeping that one in front of him. With a runner at third, a runner at first, and 2 outs. Full slate of games around baseball tonight after saw a very limited schedule in both leagues last night. Cubs are back at it tonight at home, welcoming Milwaukee to town. Runner goes first to second, but that's strike 3 swinging by Holt, and that's all for the Reds. They lead 2. End of 3. Reds 5, Miami 2.
Dodgers this weekend. Thanks to Reach Magazine, you can catch all the action and save with the 4 for $48 ticket offer. Get 4 view-level tickets, 4 Reds hats for only $48. For tickets, call 513-381-REDS or visit reds.com/4 for $48. And it's nice to see the Dodgers here on a weekend. Hasn't always been the case, but those that have rooted on the Reds, 60s, 70s, etc. You know that rivalry with the Dodgers, and it still exists in my eyes.
Well, it was a great one for so many, many years, you know, for a generation of baseball fans, plus now. So many don't even know that the Reds played in that National League Western Division. Yeah, the Reds and the Atlanta Braves, and then the Giants, the Dodgers, and the Padres. That was the old National League West. Houston would later become a part of that.
That was a lot of travel. You would go 3 times to each one of those cities on the West Coast.
Yep.
And what it really meant back in those days was a long road trip. You'd always hit, or nearly always would hit, San Francisco, LA, and San Diego on one trip and then head on back. You see now a lot more back and forth, although the Reds as far as travel goes, I think they are among the 3 or 4 teams in Major League Baseball that travel the least in terms of overall miles.
On the ground down at third, and DeSclafani 2 quick outs, or did he? Yes, nice play by Votto on the high throw. The errant throw by Suarez to take care of Real Muto. And you know what's interesting about the Reds traveling so few number of miles is, ironically, this is a year where they play the American League West. Imagine if they didn't have to go to Dallas, Texas. It's not that far away, but Anaheim is. I mean, if they were playing the American League Central, for example, well, be a little different ballgame. Even fewer miles. Seattle came here. Reds played a home and home with the Rangers. Went down to Houston. And the Athletics were here. We still have a trip remaining to Anaheim coming up on the next road trip.
Yeah, just looking it up now, the Cubs, the Nationals, and the Reds are the 3 teams, and then followed by the Indians, the 4 teams that travel the least, right around 25,000 miles or fewer. Mariners travel 47,000 plus.
I think everybody who travels for their work or for leisure, but for their work, that is flown to Seattle. I mean, you can fly to San Francisco and Los Angeles from now until the end of time. Those trips seem like a drop in the bucket compared to going to Seattle. That's at the other end of the world.
That's out there.
Sports Ohio is brought to you by your local Ford dealer, Ford. Go further. And by Cincinnati Children's, changing the outcome together.
Five-2 ball game, runs in front. Snappy 1-2-3 inning for Anthony DeSclafani. And he will go right to the bat rack, grab a piece of lumber, put on the helmet, and lead things off for the Reds here in the bottom of the 4th inning. And the Marlins, here you are on the 16th of August. And they will be scoreboard watching every night the rest of the way. We've all been there. Just a couple of years ago for the Redlegs, they were doing the same thing. And they want to know, what's happening with the Giants, because they're barely hanging on to a lead. So what are the Dodgers up to? They're in Philadelphia tonight. Cubs and the Brewers playing a doubleheader. And of course, they really want to know what's going on with the St. Louis Cardinals and the New York Mets. So there's a lot happening. How about that? A 4-pitch walk to DeSclafani. So 2 walks and a hit batsman so far for young Mr. Urania. Speaking of Major League Baseball, we'll tell you about this weekend coming up on FS1 here shortly. But first things first, August 19th. That'll be part of our Fireworks Friday. And thanks to the folks at Tri-Health, come on down to the ballpark. You can do so for $12. Should be a great night. 381-REDS or visit Reds.com. Renda bats for the 3rd time. He's grounded to short and flied out to right field. Look out.
Now that a changeup right there. There's no malintent. I'm certain about the pitches that have gotten away so far. One has hit Ivan De Jesus. A fastball got him on the arm, and that little changeup got away. Urena is really a pitcher that'll throw primarily 2 pitches. Fastball, and throw those 2. A combination about 70% of the time. Then his main off-speed pitch is a changeup. He's thrown 1 good slider tonight. That was one that he got a strikeout of Joey Votto in the 2nd inning.
One out, 1 on. Here's Cozart, 1 of 2 in the game. Well, I mean, don't we have to do it again? Where is Elvis? The last time we showed Elvis, this was the day that Elvis Presley died at Graceland back in 1977 in Memphis, Tennessee. We showed you prior to his at bat in the 2nd inning, Cozart born in Memphis. And what did he do? Base hit into left field. He would be the first to endorse trying it again, but apparently Elvis is not cooperating. He has officially left the building.
Oh.
See, that's what happens. It turns into a double play after Elvis leaves. Hopefully DeSclafani's all right. He's getting up limping a little bit. Well, you don't like seeing that. It's wet out there. Maybe his spike's caught and he's hurt.
It's Reds Live, the pregame edition. Everything you need to know to get ready for that day or night's game. It's brought to you by Ray St. Clair Roofing. Anthony DeSclafani got the attention from the athletic training staff between innings, along with pitching coach Mac Jenkins. Brian Price checked him out, and he said, I'm okay, ready to gut it out. Whatever he did on the base pass there to end the last half inning.
Well, you know, we had a chance to take a look at it thanks to our crew in between innings. Watch his foot that plants right there. Couldn't tell if he hyperextended his knee, if he rolled over his ankle, caught a spike. But that would be what, Chris? That would be his land foot, leg.
Hopefully it was just temporary pain, and it doesn't lock up on him later, or you get some inflammation in there. It did look like his left leg, no doubt. Good news is you get to start the inning off with the opposing pitcher, who has looked like he's been working with Johnny Cueto in the batting cage. There we go.
Suarez throws on to Votto. That'll take care of Urania, and that's the way it begins in the 5th inning. 5 in a row retired by DeSclafani. He allowed single runs in the 1st inning and the 3rd inning. And now the top of the order, D. Gordon, 1 of 2. Really stole a run in the 3rd. And it's right when we were talking about, what are the Marlins missing? And their people will tell you that not having Gordon in that lineup, I mean, it's not some average base stealer. He was the best base stealer in baseball each of the last 2 years. He had an infield hit, so the speed got him on. He stole second. He and Billy Hamilton are 2 of the only players in the league. There might be 5 guys in baseball on a ground ball to third, where the third baseman looks the runner back to second. Then once the third baseman throws the ball to first, he takes off and advances on to third during the out. There aren't many of those guys around. And then he scored on a balk. Still 0-2.
Well, he's also a guy, though, that reminds people why you shouldn't give up on prospects early and when they're too young. 23 years old, he came up with the Dodgers. He had a great little spurt there where he hit .304 his first year. That's trouble.
It's off the bag, and he's going to slam on the brakes. I'm stunned that he stopped at first.
Well, he was afraid, I think, that that ball was going to bounce right back to Suarez and get his pocket picked. So then he has a full-time job almost in LA at 24, and he hits .228. His batting average goes up 10 points the next year. So now he's 25 years old and he's hitting .234. And the Dodgers say, maybe enough of that, huh? Although he did make the All-Star team in 2014, the Dodgers end up trading him when he's 27 years old. Here he lands in Miami, makes the All-Star team last year, gets caught with PEDs this year. But he did have 205 hits last year, so getting on base is nothing new for D. Gordon. When he was with the Dodgers, I mean, everybody just said this guy's just too skinny. He's just too weak. You could knock the bat out of his hand. He's not a big leaguer. Funny how you can grow into it a little bit. He lifts him at 5'11", 170. That used to be average size infielder. What a jump.
That was a weird play. I mean, he started and then he stopped. And that's the reason they were able to throw him out.
I didn't think that they had a chance at first when I said that what a jump he had a huge jump. In fact, he never really stopped when he took his lead. Watch his lead here. He kind of moves, and then he's off, and then he must have slowed down somewhere between those two angles.
So 1 steal, 1 caught stealing for Gordon tonight. And Prado with a count of ball 1.
Kind of interesting for the Reds in back-to-back series. They face D. Gordon. They had Jonathan Villar, who was playing third base for the Brewers over that series. And of course Billy Hamilton. So the 3 best base stealers in the league. You know, every time you turn around, you got another speedster coming up.
And a good thing they threw him out, because there's a base hit by Prado into left field. Had that been a successful stolen base, Gordon easily scores. And he made
second base. It's kind of interesting here. It looks like, well, very close there, but then he comes off the bag. So you hit it with your left foot, and then your left foot goes up, and there's a moment there, or a split second actually, where none of your body is in contact with the base. So even if they had reviewed that, the Marlins would have lost that review, because there was clearly a time in which he was tagged out. Hey, the review process, especially on those tag plays, have changed everything as to how coaches are coaching players on how to slide, and how coaches are coaching fielders on how to keep the tag on the runner.
You know, it's interesting. You don't like seeing base stealers go in head first. We were talking about this in reference to Billy Hamilton the other night. But most of the time when you go in head first, you don't see that happen. Every now and again, a guy will slide past a bag. But it seems like we're seeing more and more of those where if you go in feet first, there is that black hole, so to speak, unless your pop slides.
That's a good point.
And you don't see much of that anymore.
Yeah.
Yelich went around on the appeal, and that will end the inning. Yelich does not like that call by Bill Welke down at third. Sunbury. Marlins in the first inning got a broken bat flare by Christian Yelich and brought home Prado, who had doubled in front of him. Marlins had 3 hits in the first after a bases loaded walk to DeJesus. Tucker Barnhart clubs his first career grand slam, a 5-run opening inning. And since the first, DeSclafani's only allowed 1 run on 4 hits. So you're up to speed. Reds bat last of the 5th inning with a 5-2 advantage. Votto a single to right to begin the 5-run first inning, and then struck out ending the second inning. A ball and 2 strikes. That's 95 in on the hands, and Votto able to foul it off. It's a good pitch.
That's a great pitch right there, and it's not an easy pitch to throw for a strike, but with 2 strikes, Votto, he doesn't have much time to determine whether it's going to be on the plate or not. Votto's base hit into right field, which is an unusual spot for him to actually pull the ball. Came on a changeup in the first inning.
In the air, short left field. That looked like a hanging breaking ball, or a breaking ball up in the strike zone.
It was,
anyway.
and it was a pitch that Votto has not seen yet. There was a curveball. He only throws maybe 4 of those a game. And of course, there are places that you can look it up, and ball players have it all at their disposal, is exactly what tendencies there are, how many pitches he throws, and when he likes to throw certain pitches. But you may have seen Urena shake off the catcher 3 times to finally get to that pitch.
Suarez a big swing and a miss. You're with us in that first inning. Urena just brought back up from the minor leagues, retired Renda and Cozart on ground balls. 2 outs, nobody on. Votto single, Suarez single, Schebler single. Then he walked to Jesus before the grand slam by Barnhart. All the Reds scoring done in that opening inning, and it's strike 3 to Suarez, and that's number 4 in the game for Urena.
He's got kind of a funny motion, Jose Urena does. I mean, he almost like he holds the ball up behind his ear and shows it to you and says, here it comes. Like he's throwing hard darts.
You know, he has a little bit of look to it. It goes back a little while, but outstanding Dodger right-hander Ramon Martinez. Remember him?
Yeah.
Kind of similar delivery. Boy, he was a mighty good pitcher. Broken bat, base hit, and Schebler a perfect 3 for 3. This is the kind of hitting Schebler must have been doing, Chris, down at AAA Louisville when he hit .349 or better in back-to-back months.
Well, he's hit 3 bullets and a ball off the end of the bat so far tonight. In fact, that one shattered the bat right at the handle. Tell you what he's doing, though, he's really staying down on that low outside pitch. So now that he's adjusted to that pitch, we'll see if the Marlins adjust and start pitching him in.
Tell you what, that Ramon Martinez. In 1998, he suffered a torn rotator cuff. He had pitched his entire career with the Dodgers up until that point. He was over 50 games over 500. Was the team's opening day starter 5 times. Had over 1,300 strikeouts and a 3.4 career ERA. Were it not for that torn rotator, he might have won 200 or more games.
And he was built very much like Urena.
Yep.
I mean, he was a tall, very thin pitcher.
And for those of you wondering, yes, that is Pedro Martinez's brother.
Good Bud line.
One returns 2 big games, back-to-back days. They'll start Friday night. The New York Yankees take on the Angels at 9:30 Eastern. Then Saturday, the New York Mets take on the San Francisco Giants at 3:30 Eastern time. Watch both games live on Fox Sports Go as well. Mets and the Giants both very much in it, although it doesn't feel like the Mets are in it. They have struggled so mightily for the better part of a month and a half. I'll tell you, the Giants are very lucky that the Dodgers have been struggling, because the Giants have had a terrible go of it recently. They lost that game 2 days ago. Line drive out. Ozuna right to Kozar. They lost a game the other day. They were ahead 6-1 with Johnny Cueto on the mound.
Well, this guy has just centered up the ball nearly every time he's been up.
Well, the Marlin people told us that if there is one guy, and they believe there's a lot more, but if there is one player who has really benefited from the arrival of Barry Bonds as the Marlins' first-year hitting coach, it is Marcell Ozuna. A lot of people wondered, would Bonds, who is extremely difficult to deal with as a player, there's no doubt about that. He's admitted as much himself. I mean, he was not a very pleasant, likable guy. And that was his decision. That's while he was a player. Came out in spring training and said, hey, look, I wish I could go back and do things a little bit differently. I'd have been a different guy. But Bonds is a very, very smart guy. I bet his IQ is very high. We know his baseball IQ is very high. He knows hitting. And while apparently in his style it's not always about, the X's and O's, if you will, of hitting, but a lot of it has to do with the mental approach to hitting. And there's strike 3 called on Dietrich, 2 down in the inning. Many wondered, would he work very hard? Major League Baseball's all-time home run king.
Yeah, I never had that suspicion that he wouldn't be there to work. I think the part of the problem that made him so difficult to get along with was that he was so good at what he did, and he did work hard at it, that he didn't have time for people asking him elementary level questions about it. And there may have been some other issues going on that he didn't want people prying into. So I didn't ever had a suspicion that he wouldn't work hard over here, but his approach is primarily a mental approach. Strike zone management, situational hitting, things like that, rather than the technical part of where you hold your hands.
Well, DeSclafani on a nice run here tonight. He has a 5-2 lead after a 1-2-3 6th.
T-Mobile. Former Red Shin-Soo Choo has had a tough time staying on the field this season, and a fractured left forearm after getting hit by a pitch last night doesn't help. Bartolo Colon got his first home run out of the way. Now he collected his first career walk last night versus Arizona. 281 plate appearances without a walk. It was an MLB record. The guy they call Big Sexy. And Seattle defeated the Angels the 11th win in the last 13 games. They're 2 games out of the AL wild.
What's his nickname?
Big Sexy.
It's one of the great nicknames of all time.
Especially when you hear Jim Day.
That's right.
Describe his nickname.
Wasn't a real good night, though, for Bartolo outside of drawing that walk. He was lit up last night.
Is there an indication? Has he indicated that he's retiring after this year?
No. I mean, there was some talk of that very early on, but there's a 4-pitch walk to Barnhart to begin the Reds' 6th inning. Reds leading 5-2.
Same thing Urania did to start the 4th inning when he walked DeSclafani on 4 pitches. See all the pitches that he threw in the 1st inning. He really hasn't labored too much ever since. Although I imagine up at 92, they're going to be keeping a pretty close look on him here in the 6th.
And there's strike to hold. He has fanned 5 batters, starting with the 2nd inning. All 5 have come since then. That's his first walk, 2nd walk, I beg your pardon, that Chris mentioned. He had DeSclafani leading off the 4th. Now Barnhart here in the 6th. Those are his only 2 walks, along with a hit batter since the 1st inning.
Hit and run.
And it's only 2.
I thought that might be a good time to do that because Holt's flat out, struck out. Doesn't look like a great matchup straight up against Urania. So why not with a big side of the infield over here, wide open? Why not see if he can shoot the ball that way? Trying to do it, but couldn't get it down. You know, the misnomer about hit and runs is that people think that hitters are taught to try to hit the ball on the ground. You're supposed to just hit the ball first and then hit it where it's pitched, not necessarily always going the other way, because sometimes a team will have reverse coverage on you. You think that, well, hit and run, I'm going to hit it opposite field in that hole over there. Well, sometimes the second baseman will stay there and the shortstop will cover. That's what they call reverse coverage.
There's one. They turn it over, and that's a double play. Holt runs well, but Echevarria, Gordon on to Dietrich, and after a leadoff walk, they're wiped empty. 2 outs, and the pitcher coming up. And they're going to send up a pinch hitter to be Kyle Waldrop, just brought up from the minor leagues to replace Cody Reed. You wonder, Chris, you brought up earlier, has something perhaps tightened up, stiffened up, swollen up in that left foot, ankle, knee for Anthony DeSclafani?
It could be, and the fact that I believe that the Reds bullpen is fairly well rested. Those guys that Brian Price wants to use in a game in which they're winning.
It didn't take long. First pitch popping up is Waldrop. 6 innings of 7-hit 2-run baseball, and here comes Rysell. rocket arms. Take a look at the strikeouts per 9 innings since going into the bullpen for both Lorenzen and Raisel Iglesias. Pretty good.
Both of these guys, you see a huge bump in your fastball velocity when they went from being starters to relievers, especially Michael Lorenzen. I mean, when he started and then he began to start every 5 days and began to wear on him a little bit, that fastball that started out about 95 went down to 92. They're both up in the high 90s now, and that's one of the big reasons why so many strikeouts. Now the question is, are we looking at a possible 3-inning save right here? Iglesias coming in the ballgame in the 7th inning.
Well, the thing the Reds have yet to do with Iglesias is pitch him since being moved to the bullpen after coming off the disabled list in back-to-back games. So if you're going to bring him in, you're certainly going to use him for more than 1 inning. Now the Reds need to find out moving forward, you know, can he go back-to-back games? Will Brian Price use him in back-to-back games? And of course, that's just a small part of a much bigger puzzle as to what to do with Iglesias moving forward. Will he be a starter again? Let's not forget, this young man was a Reds opening day starter this season. Or will he become a full-time reliever, ultimately becoming the Reds closer? 3-0 on Real Muto, and a 4-pitch walk starts the inning.
And that is about the last thing that Brian Price thought would happen when you go to the bullpen to get Iglesias. He has been so consistently good.
Echeverria the batter, and already Chris Johnson, who had a big part in the Marlins win here last night, has moved into the on-deck circle. That is where the pitcher bats. There's a strike from Raisel. Jim Day will be all over the story with DeSclafani should we receive any information from the Reds clubhouse. Did he leave because maybe he spent on a somewhat muggy night, not terribly so, or was he injured running the bases when he was doubled up on the line drive in the 4th inning? Fouled away. It's a ball and 2 strikes. You weren't with us. Here's the injury.
It was a line drive to the 3rd baseman right there, and you see DeSclafani puts his left foot out to stop. And he's doubled up off at first base, but it's what happened to his left leg is the questionable thing. I mean, did he hyperextend his knee? Did he hurt his ankle? Pitched well afterwards. It didn't seem like it affected his control or his stuff.
No, that was to end the 4th inning. In the 5th, he allowed 2 hits, but they threw a base runner out trying to steal, and he had a perfect 6. Jim Day, any update down there?
Well, I can't tell you whether or not they pulled him from the game because of injury. We'll find that out after the game, but I do know it is his left ankle. He was hobbling around in the dugout. Like you said, it didn't seem to affect him on the mound, but maybe just precautionary. We'll find out for sure after the game, but left ankle.
All right, Jim Day, thank you. Swing and a miss, and that's more Iglesias-like. Now we're going to call Johnson back from the dugout. 1 out, 1 on here in the 7th inning.
Well, I wanted the slider, and he throws it like it might can be a strike, and it just drops right off the table. Echeverria, kind of a free swinger, and can't catch that one.
Robert Andino just brought up from the minor leagues prior to this series. On Sunday, his first major league game since 2013. Originally a 2nd-round draft choice by the Marlins, going all the way back to the early 2000s. Up and down his first 4 years with a major league club. Had a very, very rough upbringing growing up in the tough streets of Miami. I mean, really rough. And then, I'm not going to say the most unlikely person you would figure to kind of find trust in Andino was Buck Showalter. When Andino was moved on to the Baltimore Orioles, and Showalter and he struck up a close relationship. He became a good player there, and then once he was traded, he wound up out of baseball, and he has gone on strikes.
3 up and 3 down for Andino there. He looks like he wanted something on the inner part of the plate, and Iglesias was not about to cooperate. Everything he threw down and away. Look where Andino is swinging. I don't think he threw him a strike in that at bat that would have been called had he not swung the bat.
So after a walk to begin the inning, back-to-back strikeouts for Iglesias, and here's Gordon, 2 of 3. 2 infield hits, a stolen base has been thrown out trying to steal, and he scored a run. Giddy up on that fastball. 96 as a radar gun. It's what you referred to a little while ago. You didn't see that 96 as a starter.
No, it's nice to know that you can reach back and add a little bit. He's got so many different weapons, though, Iglesias does, that 96 is only one of them.
Walked the first batter on 4 pitches. He strikes out the next 3. They stand and stretch and applaud Rysel.
Telecast is presented by authority of the Cincinnati Reds and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cincinnati Reds.
Let's remind you again about that spectacular ticket offer we got going on tonight. You can get tickets in the Terrace line for any game against the Dodgers Friday through Monday for just $25. Here's what you do. Go to reds.com/FSOhio and use the code FSOhio to get your tickets now. Reds and Dodgers. Got to do it before the end of the postgame show.
So you got to get on the horn right away, right away, right away. All right, 5-2 ball game. As the Reds come to bat here in the last of the 7th inning, they have a top of the order against right-hander Brian Ellington.
Very hard thrower, sometimes iffy with the control, but he can touch around 100 miles an hour.
Urania allowed 5 runs in that first inning. The Reds could not get to him for anything else the rest of the way. 6 innings, 7 hits, 5 earned runs. Rendo for 3 is grounded a short fly to right, flying out to center field. One bounces through into right field, a base hit by Renda. 3rd major league hit for Renda.
Now they got the ball up, did Ellington right there, and Renda's able to find a space over there. What if they'll put a play on here with Renda? He's a speedy young player. Runs well.
Oh, one to Kozai. Renda without a stolen base so far in the big leagues.
It looks like Brian Ellington is pretty deliberate to the plate. Big tall guy anyway. It takes him a long time to kind of get loaded up.
If you're wondering about this year for Renda in the minor leagues, in 91 games, Pensacola and Louisville, a total of 17 stolen bases.
Brian Ellington, who came into the game last night in relief of the starter David Phelps. And even though the Marlins have some left-handers in their bullpen, 3 of them to be exact, they brought in Ellington to face Joey Votto, first guy out of the pen. He ended up walking Votto and getting out of the inning before Cervenka came in after a couple of walks and had to be relieved by McGowan. That was that stretch where I think we saw 5 different Marlins pitchers in the string of 11 hitters.
Three-1 on Kozart. There goes Renda, and it's ball 4. So now the Reds have something working here against Ellington after a single and a walk. Marlins have activity down in their bullpen. Saw just about everybody down there last night, including Hunter Cervenka. Joey Votto 1 for 3 in the game, had a single into right field to start the 5-run first inning rally. Scored, struck out swinging in the second, and fly to short left in the 5th. Strike one. That'll get through, and throw down to third is not going to be in time. Trail runner Cozart does not advance.
Well, two things the runner at first base has to do. He's got to make sure the ball gets away from the catcher. He does, and then checks the runner. And if you don't feel like you've got a good enough break, there's no reason that you have to force it as that trail runner. Realmuto gets a glove down there, but not all the way down, and it finds a hole to get past him. So the Marlins down 3. They're going to bring the infield in at least halfway, where they'll have a choice either to come home with a ground ball or turn a double play if it's hit to the right fielder, the correct fielder, that is.
In the air, left center field, well hit, plenty deep enough to bring in the run from third. So Votto, the sacrifice fly run, batted in, and that tacks on a run to make it a 4-run Reds lead, 6-2.
Wild pitch came in handy. Votto looks very confident in this at bat, really right from the very start. He realizes that Ellington really doesn't have much in the way of changing speeds. Threw him a fastball, a changeup, looking fastball again right there, and nearly got a whole bunch of it.
You know, knowing the kind of player Cozart is, he's always thinking baseball, situation baseball. You can pretty much rest assured somewhere in his mind he saw that fly ball going to deep left center field, and he's saying to himself, I should be standing at third with one out right now. Because if he advances on the wild pitch a moment ago, he would have easily gone second to third on that fly ball to the track in left center. And you'd have a runner at third with one out here in the inning.
Yeah, but at the same time, if you push it and you don't get a good jump, but you go because you think you should, and you get thrown out, then you've got 2 outs and nobody on. So Cozart's one of those Reds that has been consistently a pretty good base runner.
Yes, he has. Off to the first base side out of play. 1 ball and 2 strikes. So the Reds score for the first time since the first inning. When they got all 5 of their runs after 2 were out. In fact, 2 were out with nobody on. Ellington just turned 26 years old a couple of weeks ago. Got to the big leagues for the first time last year. Did a real nice job. 2.8 ERA in 23 games. A native Floridian. 2-2 pitch. That's a nasty breaking ball right there for strike 3. So here comes Schebler working on a perfect night. This is a guy who ended an 0 for 28 stretch last night.
You're right about that. He did it with a home run, and tonight he didn't waste any time getting his base hits. Got one in the first inning. Did Schebler a rocket shot to left field. Almost undressed a pitcher with one. Then a little blooper in the left field. So 3 up and 3 on for Schebler here. And before he gets a bat against the right-hander, Don Mattingly's coming out to make a pitching change.
This will be our Skyline Chili call to the bullpen. Left-hander Hunter Cervenka will come on to face Schebler. We're back in a moment.
Here in a 6-2 ball game, bottom of the 7th, 2 out. A pitching change brought in the left-hander Hunter Cervenka. For the second night in a row, we get to see this southpaw come into the ball game. He came in last night to face Schebler in the 6th inning and walked him.
And right back to the mound on the very first pitch. That takes care of him. Cervenka throws out Schebler. Reds get a run. Go to the 8th, 6-2, Cincinnati in front.
An everyday catcher. He's drawn our praise, but none bigger praise than the guys that throw to him.
You know, really, I think a lot of credit goes to Tucker tonight. I mean, we've seen 2 games now, the first one and this one. He makes my job so much easier. So a lot of that was him. I mean, he had a really good plan going in with it. And, you know, at the end of the day, I just have to go execute pitches.
It was an absolute navigation by Tucker to get me through that type of game. It was a flip of a coin if I knew where fastball was going, it seemed like.
And those were following the last 2 starts of Straley and Homer Bailey. And Straley said, man, he just managed me right through it. I would have never done it without him. And you guys know Homer Bailey well enough through the years. He's not going to just give a compliment idly just to give one. He means it.
Well, I don't think there's any doubt about that. And I don't think there's any doubt that these Reds pitchers like throwing to Tucker Barnhart.
Well, he does a lot of things right. Number one, he gives the umpire a really great vision of the strike zone. He stays small. He stays still.
And that's a fair ball. Tucker comes out to get it and takes care of Prado. It's a big out to begin this 8th inning with the Reds in front 6-2.
He's athletic behind there, which is very important all the time. He can catch and throw. But the catching part is interesting because if you want to be able to be a good framer of pitches, you have to get your glove to the spot where the ball is going to be before it gets there, so that when you catch it, you kind of draw it in towards your body rather than jabbing at it and going away from the strike zone. Some people call that soft hands. I'll tell you, I think there's pitchers who will be lining up to throw to him. On other teams, I've had pitchers talk about Tucker Barnhart because as they watch TV, that's one of the things that they watch.
Light rain beginning to fall. That ball is drilled into deep left center field, and that baby will sail out of here. Boy, is that crushed by Christian Yelich. And it gives you an idea of the kind of ballpark that the Marlins play in. Spacious indeed. That is only the 13th home run all year long for Yelich.
And I guarantee you he hasn't had any of those go into left center field. Center field at Marlin Ballpark is just a cavern. I mean, it is just a bomb out there. That's where they have the Marlin artwork that lights up and shoots water when they do hit a home run. Because that ballpark is so spacious, that artwork is underused. Maybe underappreciated.
Book that. So here's Ozuna. Chris brought up earlier everything that he has hit in this series has been right on the barrel of the bat. Fly ball to deep left tonight, a double to left center, and a line drive right at Kozart in the 6th inning. So a 3-run game again. And Rysel misses inside 2-0. You know, conversely, it gives you an idea about the kind of pop this young man must have in his back. He's got 8 more home runs than Yelich. And we know about Stanton. Unbelievable, extraordinary power. Perhaps more than any other player in all of Major League Baseball.
Well, he showed that in the home run derby when he was just hitting him, what, 500 feet? Ozuna's the guy that really in the lineup that they're hoping can pick up some of the slack left by Stanton as far as the home runs go.
It's been the 3rd year in a row, though, for Stanton where he has not been able to finish the year due to injury. Be 27 during the offseason. Last year played in just 74 games. Most games he has played since his first full year in the major leagues was 2 years ago, 145, but 116 the year before that, 123 the year before that. So obviously there are a lot of things to like about Stanton, Chris, a lot of things. But you can't do damage if you're not in uniform. Three-two popped up, fooled him with a breaking ball. 2 out. Cheer on the Reds. They take on the Dodgers starting Friday night. 4-game series, and thanks to Reach Magazine, you can catch all the action and save with our 4 for $48 ticket offer. You know the drill. 4 View-level tickets, 4 Reds hats, all for $48. We'll see you this weekend. Dodgers in town. Dodgers are having to completely reshuffle the deck in that oft-injured starting rotation, beginning with their main man, the best pitcher in all of Major League Baseball. They've been without Clayton Kershaw for over a month and a half now. So we have, as of right now, no idea who will pitch for them this coming weekend. or in what order. Reds will have Finnegan Saturday, DeSclafani Sunday, Homer Bailey Monday. Don't know yet about Friday night. Reds just brought up Tim Adelman before the game. Let's check in downstairs with Jim Day.
They indeed brought Tim Adelman up, and Brian Price says if they do not use him out of the bullpen before Friday, he will be your Friday starter. With a lot of rain in the forecast the rest of this week, he's going to be a guy that's kind of on hold, if you will. And Kivas Sampson, who went 5 innings, is going to be unavailable for a few days. So if they use Adelman out of the pen, it will be Kivas Sampson Friday. If you don't see Adelman before then, he will start Friday. I hope that made sense.
It did. Perfect sense. Adelman will, when he does come in a game, start his second stint with the Reds. He had 4 starts back in the beginning of May, a 1-1 record, and had a 3.7 earned run average. Swing and a miss, and that'll end the inning. So Rysel gives up the long ball, but that's it. Reds will bat in the bottom of the 8th, leading by 3.
On hopefully a Reds win. It's Reds Live, the post-game edition. You'll hear lots of reaction from the clubhouse. As always, it's brought to you by Performance Kings Honda. Congratulations going out. Let's take you down to high A ball. Ishmael Guillon, Florida State pitcher of the week. 2 games, 1 start, 7 innings, 2 hits, no runs, walked only 2 batters, struck out 11. Your pitcher of the week in the Florida State League.
You know, Chris, that's a young man we were talking about 2 years ago who had put back-to-back seasons together as a very, very young pitcher in the Reds organization. Then the injury bug got him, and now he's trying to make it, you know, on a fast-track comeback trail, if you will. There was a time, not all that long ago, where he was among the top 10 prospects in the Reds organization.
He has a tremendous arm. Left-hander with a rocket arm.
De Jesus Barnhart Holt against Cervenka. Reds leading 6-3. They're hoping this is the last time they come to the plate tonight. Cervenka originally drafted back in Baytown, Texas, out of high school by Boston. Traded to the Cubs. There's a pop-up into short right field. He was a player to be named later in the Marlin Bird trade. And then the Cubs released him last season at the end of May. Went all the way down to the Atlantic League of Professional Baseball with the Sugar Land Skeeters. After 8 games, the Atlanta Braves saw him. They signed him in the early part of July. Came to spring training this year, started the year with Double-A Mississippi. Wound up in the big leagues the second week of the year and then traded to the Marlins recently. You're talking about a wild wind journey. 1 year ago, this guy is pitching in independent ball. I bet he pinches himself every now and again. Or if he doesn't, maybe he should.
Well, you ought to congratulate himself for not giving up the dream, because when you do give it up, that window closes. But if you just keep hanging in there, you just never know. Now, chances may be 1 in a million. There are a lot of teams that could use left-handed relievers.
Yeah, especially guys with his numbers. This guy's putting together a nice year. Barnhart turning around about right-handed, but he did the major league damage in the first inning as a left-handed batter. Our Volkswagen drive of the game, his first career grand slam. And that extended his current hitting streak to 12 games. Two and two to count. Pulled the string on him to pick up the strikeout. 2 up, 2 down for Cervenka here in the 8th inning.
You can see the spin on that curveball right there, and it just never really comes back in over the strike zone. Just kind of drops down. So Cervenka gets a strikeout. He's retired all 3 that he has faced.
So now Tyler Holt. You're taking a look at the Miami 9th. They'll have Ichiro, Real Muto, and Echevarria, and then the pitcher spot would be up 4. Now there's action in the bullpen. You have a Ramon Cabrera standing in the on-deck circle, and apparently the Reds are going to hand the ball, at least it looks like, to Tony Cingrani to try and nail it down in the 9th. So it would be a 2-inning stint for Rysel. Pitchers of record are still the starters for each team, DeSclafani and Urania. A little half swing, and that's all for the Reds against Cervenka. So here we go in the 9th. Reds trying to nail it down and even this series in a game apiece, a lead by 3. Reds baseball on Fox Sports Ohio, brought to you by Kroger. Stop by your neighborhood Kroger to save big store-wide. Great food, low prices, Kroger. And by Toyota. For over 30 offers, visit buyatoyota.com. Toyota, let's go places. Let's go along the mighty Ohio. And that rig right there. Top of the ninth, Reds lead by 3, and on to try and pick up a save is Tony Cingrani.
Now Cingrani will come in and will face the last 4 batters in the Marlins order. Starting with Ichiro Suzuki. Left-hander Cingrani has been the closer before. 51 games for Cingrani and got plenty of strikeout ability. So a nice outing for Iglesias, even though he got started off with a leadoff walk. He struck out the side in the first inning, gave up a home run. That's the first long ball that Iglesias has given up. In fact, the first extra base hit that was allowed by Iglesias in almost 24 innings. 1 inning to go, 3-run lead. Cingrani ready to go.
Cingrani 13 of 18 in save situations. Now, not all of those have come as a 9th inning pitcher. He's not been in that role all year long.
Oh, somebody just got tossed again in the Marlins dugout. He's pointing in. Is the home plate umpire DJ Rayburn. It was Don Mattingly last night, who only lasted about an inning.
I think they got Frank Medicino tonight, because he got right up and turned around and walked out of here.
Well, he's the assistant hitting coach. We were talking about Barry Bonds being the hitting coach. Medicino is the assistant hitting coach, and I'll tell you, Rayburn has had both benches barking, very similar to last night. Milwaukee had both benches barking.
And I just saw Medicino get up and turn and walk away. There he is, and if he makes his, yep, he's the guy. Ichiro has his first career hit at Great American Ballpark. And Tyler Holt slides down. It's going to be a triple for Ichiro. So Ichiro, this was the only ballpark in the major leagues he had never collected a base hit. And it becomes his 4,282nd.
A slide and a miss.
And those numbers combined with his years in Japan, of course. Here in Major League Baseball, hit number 3,004. But his first in Cincinnati's Great American Ballpark. Gives you an idea of how long he's been around. This ballpark opened his final year playing in Japan. It was the next year where he came to the Seattle Mariners, and as we mentioned earlier, his first season in the major leagues. Not only the Rookie of the Year, but the American League's most valuable player. Soft liner caught by Cozart, 1 out in the 9th. Can you name the other player, Chris Welsh? First year in the major leagues, it's only been done by 2 players all time. Ichiro won. Who's the only other player in either league to be the Rookie of the Year and the MVP the same season? First year in the big leagues. It's an interesting piece of trivia only because
Mickey Mantle.
No. Freddie Lynn.
You might as well ask me to do math as ask me to do baseball.
I wouldn't have known that either. I'll be the first to admit it. Just read it.
I mean, some people really are encyclopedias, walking encyclopedias.
But, you know, of any of them to maybe, you know, you only have to remember 2 names. Of all the things that have been done and accomplished in Major League history, only 2 guys have ever done that.
I guess I've heard it before. I just chose not to remember it.
That makes 2 of us. That was that year, of course, the Reds played Freddie Lynn and the Boston Red Sox in the World Series. Oh, where did that miss? Are you kidding? Well, now all of a sudden, Cingrani, after that walk, has made it interesting. Because the Marlins have Chris Johnson making his way to the plate. And he represents the tying run. I would imagine the Reds are not going to wait around long to start their bullpen here. After what happened in St. Louis, where they had a 4-0 lead and wound up losing the game in the bottom of the 9th by a run.
Johnson had a home run last night off Brandon Finnegan. Opposite field, went into the right field bullpen. So he's got plenty of power to leave this yard anywhere.
Well, you've known this young man since he was a wee little boy. Very, very close friends with his father, former teammate of yours in the minor leagues. Here's ball 1.
I think RJ, his dad, Ron Johnson, still managing in the minor leagues.
I think the crowd has given it to DJ Rayburn a little bit here. Diaz throws in the Reds bullpen. They're on the corners with 1 out here in the top of the 9th. Reds lead by 3. Johnson has as a pinch hitter in his career 5 home runs. And now Cingrani a 2-2 count. Johnson smacks the bat in frustration. It appears he'd like to have that one back. That's a fastball center cut right down the can. 2-2 on Johnson. There's 1 at second. They turn it over, and that's the ball game.
Nicely done.
Cingrani rolls up the double play on Johnson. And the Reds even this series in a game apiece. They down the Marlins tonight, a final count of 6-3. So Cingrani picks up the save, handing DeSclafani his 7th win of the year. Suarez to DeJesus to Votto, and that's all she wrote.